The vast space between stars held a structure that should not exist. It floated in the void like a crystal made of light and shadow, larger than most planets, yet weighing nothing at all. This was the nexus of eternity, where the oldest beings in the galaxy came to meet. Inside the nexus, ancient creatures gathered around a table that stretched across dimensions. Some looked like pillars of burning gas from dead stars. Others appeared as geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. A few resembled massive brains floating in bubbles of pure energy. These were the beings who had watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. At the head of the table sat something even older. The eldest being had no fixed shape. Sometimes it looked like a star, sometimes like an ocean of darkness, sometimes like nothing at all. It had been alive since the first galaxies formed, and it remembered things that happened before most stars were born. Today the council was discussing routine matters. New species were always emerging from their homeworlds, taking their first steps into space. Most would fail within a few thousand years. Some would destroy themselves with wars or pollution. Others would simply fade away, unable to handle the vast emptiness between stars. The Zephyrian Collective reports another primitive species has achieved faster than light travel, announced HFY. A creature that looked like a crystal spider the size of a building. His voice carried the arrogance of a being who had conquered entire star systems. They call themselves humans and come from a small world they name Earth. Several council members made sounds that might have been laughter. New species always thought their homeworld was special. They never understood how small and unimportant they really were in the grand scheme of things. Their technology is basic, continued HFY, waving one crystalline leg dismissively. Chemical rockets, primitive computers, weapons that still use metal projectiles. They have barely established colonies beyond their own solar system, hardly worth our attention. The other ancient beings nodded in agreement. They had seen it all before. Every few hundred years, another young species would crawl out of its gravity well. Within a few generations, they would either evolve into something worthy of notice or join the countless other failed civilizations that littered the galaxy. But the eldest being remained silent, its form shifting and changing as it considered something the others could not see. Finally, it spoke, and its voice made the nexus itself tremble. Tell me about their world, the eldest being said. This Earth. HFY seemed surprised by the question. It is nothing special. A small rocky planet orbiting a common yellow star, mostly water and stone. Why do you ask? Describe the life on this world. The usual carbon-based forms, plants that convert sunlight to energy, animals that eat other animals. The humans appear to be descended from hunting creatures that lived in groups. HFY's tone suggested he found the whole topic boring. The eldest being's form darkened, becoming more solid and menacing. The temperature in the nexus dropped several degrees. What kind of world produced them? Now other council members were paying attention. The eldest being rarely showed interest in new species, and never with such intensity. Their world is harsh, HFY admitted, consulting data files that floated around him like glowing butterflies. Frequent ice ages, massive volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts that caused mass extinctions. The continents move and collide, creating earthquakes and tsunamis. Weather patterns that can kill millions. Most of the planet's surface is hostile to land-dwelling life. Continue. The humans evolved on one continent that was particularly violent. They lived alongside creatures much larger and stronger than themselves. Predators, with teeth like swords. Disease that could wipe out entire populations. Their own species fought constant wars with stone tools, then metal tools, then weapons that could level cities. The eldest being was now completely solid, resembling a mountain of black stone shot through with veins of silver light. The other council members had never seen it take such a form, and they began to feel something they had not experienced in millions of years: unease. They survived all of this? The eldest being asked. More than survived, HFY said, reading more data. They thrived. Every catastrophe that should have wiped them out only made them stronger. When ice covered their world, they learned to use fire. When predators hunted them, they learned to make better weapons. When diseases killed their people, they learned medicine. When their wars grew too destructive, they learned to work together. Each time their world tried to kill them, they found a way to not just live, but to grow more numerous. The council chamber fell silent except for the humming of cosmic energy that powered the nexus. The ancient beings looked at each other with growing concern. They were beginning to understand why the eldest being was interested in these humans. "You have all forgotten," the eldest being said finally, its voice like the sound of black holes colliding. "You have lived so long in peace that you have forgotten what a true predator looks like. These humans, their world, did not just create another intelligent species. It forged something else entirely." "Surely you exaggerate," said another council member, a being that appeared as a cloud of sparkling dust. "They are primitive. They have barely learned to leave their own star system." The eldest being turned its attention to the dust creature, and for a moment, its form resembled something that had teeth and claws and eyes that burned like dying stars. "I have seen worlds like Earth before. Long ago, before most of you were born, there was another such place. The creatures it produced forced us to evolve beyond physical form just to survive their expansion across the galaxy." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers and discussions. This was ancient history that none of them had lived through, but all had heard stories about. The time of the Great Awakening, when the universe itself had seemed to tremble. "You are suggesting these humans are the same?" HFY asked, his crystal body flickering with nervous energy. "I am not suggesting anything," the eldest being replied, its form now resembling a judge sitting on a throne made of starlight. "I am issuing a warning. Do not awaken Earth's fury. Do not test these humans as you have tested other young species. Do not make them angry. Because if you do, you will learn what their world taught them about survival." The council members sat in stunned silence. Outside the nexus, stars continued to burn and planets continued to spin. Unaware that the oldest beings in the galaxy had just been told to fear something that had barely learned to travel between worlds. But the warning was given. Whether anyone would listen remained to be seen. 3 months had passed since the eldest being's warning, and most of the council members had decided it was the paranoid ramblings of an ancient mind that had lived too long. HFY was particularly dismissive of the concerns about humans. "The eldest speaks of legends and myths," HFY told his fellow Zephyrians, as they gathered in their war room aboard the massive command ship Dominion. "These humans are no different from any other primitive species. They bleed, they die, they fear. We have tested 100 worlds, and all have fallen before our might." The Zephyrian collective was known throughout the galaxy as the great testers of civilizations. When a new species reached the stars, the Zephyrians would evaluate their worthiness through controlled conflict. Weak species would be absorbed as servants. Strong species would be invited to join the galactic community as equals. It was a system that had worked for thousands of years. But the eldest being specifically warned against provoking them, cautioned General Kethra, whose blue-scaled form stood rigid with concern. "Perhaps we should observe them longer before acting." HFY's crystalline body flared with contempt. "The eldest being has grown soft with age. These humans have 3 small colonies beyond their home system. Their largest warship is smaller than our scout vessels. Their weapons are crude chemical explosives. What possible threat could they represent?" The truth was, HFY felt insulted by the warning. He had personally overseen the testing of 47 species. His tactical brilliance had never failed to break enemy resistance within days. The suggestion that some backwater species could present a real challenge to his abilities was offensive. "We proceed with standard testing protocol," HFY announced. 3 demonstration strikes to show our power, followed by demands for surrender. When they comply, we evaluate their technology and culture for potential contributions to galactic society. The human colonies of New Haven, Prosperity, and Hope's End were chosen as targets. They were lightly defended agricultural worlds, home to farming families and research stations. Perfect examples of human weakness and vulnerability. The attacks would be swift and clean, designed to break human spirit without causing unnecessary suffering. New Haven died first. The Zephyrian fleet appeared without warning above the peaceful farming communities. Energy beams from orbit turned cities into glass and ash. The human defense ships, only 6 small patrol craft, charged directly at the massive alien fleet instead of running. They were destroyed within minutes, but their desperate courage was broadcast across human space before the communication satellites were eliminated. Prosperity fell next. The mining colonies on the outer edge of the system tried to evacuate their families, but Zephyrian interceptors hunted down the slow transport ships. The miners fought back with industrial equipment modified into crude weapons. They held the invaders for 3 hours before being overwhelmed. Every human died fighting. Hope's End lasted longer. The research station there had been working on experimental defense systems. When the Zephyrian fleet arrived, they found orbital platforms armed with particle cannons and missile arrays. The humans had somehow predicted the attack and prepared as best they could with their limited technology. The battle lasted 2 days. Human ships barely 1/10 the size of Zephyrian vessels darted in and out of the larger fleet like angry insects, striking where they could and retreating before retaliation. They used tactics that defied all military logic. Ramming attacks that traded one human ship for damage to multiple enemy vessels. Sacrifice plays where crews deliberately overloaded their reactors to create massive explosions. When Hope's End finally fell, HFY was disturbed to find that the humans had fought to the very last person. No surrenders. No begging for mercy. No offers to negotiate. They had simply fought until there was no one left to fight. Broadcast the standard terms, HFY ordered as his fleet positioned itself for the final phase. Unconditional surrender. Within 72 hours, or we proceed to their home system and eliminate their species entirely. The message was sent across all human communication channels. HFY expected a response within hours. Usually pleas for mercy, offers of tribute, or angry but futile threats. Most species broke quickly once they understood the hopelessness of their situation. Instead, there was silence. Not the silence of despair or shock, but something else entirely. Something that made HFY's subordinates shift uncomfortably in their positions. The humans received the message. They could tell, because communication traffic spiked briefly across their networks, but then went quiet in a way that felt deliberate and ominous. Perhaps they need more time to process the reality of their situation, suggested General Kethra. Their leaders may be debating among themselves. But as the hours passed, strange reports began coming from Zephyrian intelligence sources throughout the galaxy. Human merchant ships that had been traveling peaceful trade routes suddenly changed course toward unknown destinations. Human research stations went dark, cutting all outside communication. Human colonies that had never shown military capability began moving massive amounts of raw materials and personnel. Most disturbing of all, every human in the galaxy, civilians, merchants, researchers, diplomats, simply vanished from public view. Not fled or hidden, but organized themselves with a speed and efficiency that suggested long-standing plans that no one had suspected existed. "What are they doing?" Kethra asked as intelligence reports continued to arrive. "Probably building monuments to surrender," HFY replied, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. "Some species prefer ritual submission to simple capitulation. The 72-hour deadline passed with no response from humanity. HFY was forced to make good on his threat and order the fleet toward Earth. As they traveled through hyperspace, more disturbing intelligence arrived. Human industrial capacity was being converted to war production at a rate that defied belief. Civilian factories were producing military equipment around the clock. Asteroid mining operations were being retooled to manufacture starship armor. Agricultural worlds were suddenly producing vast quantities of preserved food suitable for long space voyages. Most concerning of all, humans were appearing in places throughout the galaxy where no humans should be. Trading posts in remote systems reported human ships arriving with cargoes of unknown materials. Border worlds detected human vessels conducting what appeared to be reconnaissance missions. Deep space monitoring stations picked up transmissions in human languages from coordinates where no human colonies existed. "Sir," Kethra said as they approached the Sol system, "I believe the humans are preparing for war." "Impossible," HFY replied. But even as he said it, he wondered if that was true. They cannot have hidden military assets on this scale. We have been monitoring them for years. When the Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, they found Earth exactly where it should be, orbiting its yellow star like a blue-white jewel. The human homeworld appeared peaceful and defenseless, just as their intelligence had indicated. But something felt wrong. The space around Earth was too empty, too quiet. Where were the merchant ships, the orbital platforms, the normal traffic of a civilization's heart world? "Begin preliminary scans," HFY ordered. "Locate their leadership centers and military installations." The scans revealed Earth's surface in perfect detail. Cities full of people going about their daily lives. Farms and factories operating normally. No visible military buildup, no hidden weapons, no sign of the panic that should accompany an alien invasion fleet. It was exactly what they should have expected from a primitive world facing its doom. So why did HFY feel like he was looking into the eyes of a predator that was pretending to be asleep? The Zephyrian fleet hung in space above Earth like a sword waiting to fall. HFY studied the peaceful world below and felt increasingly uneasy. Every other species had shown some reaction by now. Panic, defiance, desperate preparation. The humans simply continued their daily lives as if nothing was happening. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth," reported Communications Officer Zinth. "Finally," HFY said with relief. "Put it through." The holographic display showed a middle-aged human woman sitting at what appeared to be an ordinary desk in an ordinary office. She wore simple clothes and spoke in a calm, pleasant voice. "Hello," she said, looking directly at the camera. "My name is Sarah Chen, and I speak for the human government. We received your message about surrender. We need some time to discuss this among ourselves. Would 3 days be acceptable?" HFY blinked in surprise. No rage, no fear, no desperate attempts at negotiation. Just a polite request for more time. As if they were discussing a business meeting. 3 days? HFY replied. "You have seen what happened to your colonies. You understand that resistance is futile. Why do you need more time?" 1. Sarah Chen smiled, and for just a moment, something flickered in her eyes that made HFY's crystal form grow cold. "We're a democratic species. These kinds of decisions require discussion and voting. Surely beings as advanced as yourselves understand the value of proper procedure." The transmission ended before HFY could respond. He stared at the empty holographic space where the human woman had been, trying to understand what he had just witnessed. "Grant them 3 days," he decided finally. "But increase our surveillance. I want to know what they're discussing." Over the next 72 hours, the Zephyrians watched Earth with growing confusion. The humans did appear to be having discussions and taking votes, just as their representative had claimed. But the conversations their surveillance picked up made no sense. In one intercept, They heard a group of humans debating the Morrison Protocol versus the Chang option. In another, someone mentioned activating the deep reserves and confirming all sleeper assets. Military terminology appeared in civilian conversations, while ordinary citizens discussed concepts that sounded like advanced tactical planning. Most disturbing of all, the humans seemed to be treating the invasion as something they had expected and prepared for, rather than an unprecedented catastrophe. On the morning of the third day, Sarah Chen appeared again on their screens. "Thank you for your patience," she said with the same pleasant smile. "We've finished our discussions and taken our vote. The result was unanimous." "You surrender unconditionally?" Vexhai asked. "Oh no," Sarah Chen replied. And this time her smile was different, colder. "We vote for war." The transmission ended, and for several seconds, nothing happened. The Zephyrian fleet remained in position, Vexhai trying to process what he had just heard. Then every alarm on every ship began screaming at once. "Contacts!" shouted the sensor operator. "Multiple hyperspace signatures, hundreds of them." Space around the Zephyrian fleet erupted with arriving human ships. Not the small patrol craft they had faced at the colonies, but vessels of every size and description. Modified cargo haulers with military weapons welded to their hulls. Mining ships converted into missile platforms. Even luxury liners that had been transformed into troop carriers. The human fleet was a chaotic mixture of different designs and technologies, held together by determination and desperation. By all military logic, it should have been easy to defeat. Except the humans didn't fight according to any logic the Zephyrians understood. Human ships attacked in swarms, sacrificing themselves to overwhelm Zephyrian defenses. When a human vessel was crippled, its crew would ram it into the nearest enemy ship, rather than retreat. When outgunned, human captains would deliberately overload their reactors to take their attackers with them. "They're insane!" General Kethra shouted as another human ship exploded against their shields. "They're throwing away their lives for no tactical gain." But Vexhai was beginning to see the pattern. Each human sacrifice was carefully calculated to create maximum damage while gathering intelligence on Zephyrian weaknesses. The seemingly random attacks were actually probing strikes, testing response times and defensive capabilities. More horrifying still, the humans were learning and adapting faster than should have been possible. Tactics that worked in the first hour of battle were useless in the second hour, as the humans found countermeasures. "Sir, we're receiving priority signals from our forward scouts," reported the communications officer. "They're under attack across 17 different systems simultaneously." Vexhai felt something he had not experienced in thousands of years. Genuine fear. That's impossible. The humans don't have enough ships to mount attacks across 17 systems. But the reports kept coming. Human fleets were engaging Zephyrian forces throughout their territory, striking supply lines, research stations, and military outposts, with surgical precision. Somehow, the humans had built a massive military force in complete secrecy and deployed it across the galaxy in perfect coordination. "How?" Kethra demanded. "How did they hide this from us?" Quote, the answer came from an intercepted human transmission. A human admiral was giving orders to his fleet, and his words chilled the listening Zephyrians to their core. "Remember, we've been preparing for this day since we first reached the stars. Every merchant ship that left the Sol system carried hidden military supplies. Every research station was built with weapon capabilities. Every human in the galaxy has been a soldier waiting for orders. The eldest being had been right. Earth had not produced just another intelligent species. It had created something far more dangerous, a race of natural-born warriors who hid their true nature until the moment they were threatened. Sir, the human fleet is regrouping for another attack, reported the tactical officer. But they're not targeting our ships anymore. They're targeting our engines and communication systems. HFY realized with growing horror what the humans were doing. They weren't trying to destroy the Zephyrian fleet quickly. They were disabling it piece by piece, trapping it in the Sol system while their other forces swept across Zephyrian space. All ships, prepare for immediate retreat to hyperspace, HFY ordered. Sir, half our ships report engine damage. They can't make the jump. On the main screen, more human ships were arriving every minute. These looked different from the first wave. Sleeker, more advanced, clearly built for war, rather than hastily converted from civilian vessels. Sir, the sensor operator said in a voice filled with disbelief, I'm reading massive energy signatures from Earth itself. Something is powering up on the surface. Through the chaos of battle, HFY looked down at the blue world below. For the first time, he truly saw it as the eldest being did. Not a peaceful planet, but a fortress world that had spent millions of years teaching its children how to fight and win against impossible odds. The humans had been polite, had asked for time, had followed proper diplomatic procedure. Right up until the moment they decided to show the galaxy what Earth's children could do when someone threatened their home. As another wave of human ships materialized around his crippled fleet, HFY finally understood the true meaning of the eldest being's warning. The humans weren't just angry about the attack on their colonies. They had awakened. In the nexus of eternity, the eldest being watched the destruction of the Zephyrian fleet with growing alarm. The ancient entity had hoped its warning would be heeded, that the younger species would have enough wisdom to leave the humans alone. Instead, it was witnessing the awakening of something it had prayed never to see again. The situation has exceeded acceptable parameters, the eldest being announced to the emergency council session. I must intervene directly. You cannot be serious, protested the dust cloud being, who called itself Witness. Direct intervention in lower species conflicts is forbidden by our oldest laws. The laws were written to prevent us from destroying developing civilizations. The eldest being replied, its form shifting into something resembling a judge's gavel made of compressed starlight. Not to prevent us from saving the galaxy from them. The other council members exchanged worried looks. The eldest being had never spoken of any species as a threat to the galaxy itself. Even the Zephyrian collective, for all their arrogance, was considered a useful tool for testing emerging civilizations. Surely you exaggerate the danger, said another council member, a geometric pattern that existed in 11 dimensions. They are still a young species, with primitive technology. What harm could they truly cause? The eldest being's response was to project images directly into their minds. Scenes from the battles raging across Zephyrian space. The council members saw human fleets striking with coordination that suggested a single vast intelligence directing their movements. They watched human soldiers fighting with a ferocity that ignored personal survival. They witnessed human commanders making tactical decisions that no computer could calculate and no logical mind would attempt. But most terrifying of all, they saw the humans learning. Every battle taught them something new about their enemies. Every defeat was analyzed and turned into a weapon. Every victory was studied to find ways to achieve greater victories. They are not fighting a war, the eldest being explained. They are conducting an extermination. The council fell silent as they processed this statement. Wars ended with treaties and negotiations. Exterminations ended with the complete removal of the threat, regardless of cost. I will attempt to negotiate with them, the eldest being declared. Perhaps I can make them understand that their fury has served its purpose. The journey to the Sol system took only moments for a being that could fold space-time around itself. The eldest being manifested in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, choosing a form that would not appear threatening to human perceptions, a large crystalline structure that pulsed with gentle light. Within minutes, human ships surrounded it. Not patrol, craft, or scouts, but heavy battle cruisers with weapons trained on the ancient entity. The humans had detected its arrival instantly and responded with military force. A transmission came from the lead human vessel. Unknown entity. You are in restricted space during active military operations. Identify yourself and state your intentions. The voice was calm and professional, but the eldest being could hear something underneath it. A barely controlled rage that made the ancient entity's energy patterns fluctuate with concern. I am the eldest being of the Galactic Council, it replied, broadcasting directly into human communication networks. I come to discuss terms for ending this conflict. Terms? The human voice carried a tone the eldest being had not heard in millions of years. Contempt directed at its own vast power. You want to discuss terms after your species attacked our children? The Zephyrians acted against my explicit warnings. I did not authorize or support their aggression against your people. There was a pause. Then another voice joined the communication. Older. Female. With an accent, the eldest being's systems identified as originating from Earth's Asian continent. This is Admiral Liu Wei, commander of the Seoul Defense Force. We know who you are, eldest being. We've intercepted Zephyrian communications that mentioned your warnings about us. The eldest being felt something it had not experienced in eons: surprise. You have broken Zephyrian military encryption? Number. We've broken everything. Admiral Liu replied matter-of-factly. Their ship systems, their communication protocols, their tactical databases, their personal files. We know about your council, your species, your histories. We know you tried to warn them away from us. Then you understand that not all of us supported this conflict. Negotiations are possible. Negotiations? Admiral Liu's voice carried what humans called laughter. But there was no humor in it. You want to negotiate while Zephyrian fleets are burning our colony worlds? While human families are dying in space because your species decided to test us? The eldest being tried to explain. The Zephyrian testing protocol has been used successfully for thousands of years. It identifies species ready for galactic citizenship and eliminates those that pose a threat to cosmic stability. Cosmic stability, Admiral Liu repeated slowly. You mean your stability. Your comfortable arrangement where ancient beings decide the fate of younger species based on your convenience. You do not understand the responsibilities of cosmic governance, the eldest being said, drawing upon millions of years of authority. There are dangers in the universe that require careful management of emerging civilizations. No, said Admiral Liu. You do not understand what you have done. The communication channel shifted, and suddenly the eldest being was connected to something vast and coordinated. Not just Admiral Liu, but thousands of human voices speaking as one. Military commanders, political leaders, scientists, engineers, even children, all connected in a network that spanned human space. You call yourselves the guardians of cosmic stability, the collective human voice said. But you allowed a species to murder our children as a test. You sat in judgment of us without ever asking what we wanted or what we might offer. You treated us as subjects rather than equals. The eldest being tried to assert its authority. We have maintained galactic peace for millions of years. We have prevented countless wars and guided the development of thousands of species. You have maintained your peace, the human voice replied. Your order, your vision of how the galaxy should work. But you forgot something important about humans. What is that? We don't accept other people deciding our fate for us. We never have. It's what our world taught us. The eldest being felt a chill that reached into dimensions the humans couldn't even perceive. What are you saying? We're saying that your time as the galaxy's rulers is over. We don't want to destroy you. We're not monsters like the Zephyrians. But we will never again allow any species to hold life and death power over humanity or any other developing civilization. You cannot be serious. You are a young species on a handful of worlds. We are beings of cosmic power who have shaped the evolution of galaxies. Yes. Admiral Liu's individual voice cut through the collective response. And that's exactly why you're dangerous. That's exactly why this ends now. Andins. This had explode. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. The eldest being suddenly realized it was not looking at a young species drunk on victory over a minor enemy. It was looking at a species that had decided the fundamental structure of galactic civilization needed to change, and was prepared to enforce that change regardless of the cost. "What do you want?" the eldest being asked. "We want you to call off your allies and withdraw to your home regions," the collective human voice replied. "We want all testing programs ended permanently. We want every species to have the right to develop without interference or evaluation by self-appointed guardians. And if we refuse?" The human response was delivered with the quiet certainty of a natural law. "Then we will make you." For the first time in millions of years, the eldest being felt truly afraid. These humans were not bluffing or posturing. They had already proven they could fight beings of vastly superior technology and win through sheer determination and tactical brilliance. But more terrifying than their military capability was their absolute conviction that they were right. The eldest being had seen this before, long ago, in another species from another harsh world. That species had forced the ancient beings to evolve beyond physical form just to survive the changes they brought to the galaxy. History was repeating itself. And this time, the humans were the catalyst of transformation. "I will convey your terms to the council," the eldest being said finally. "You do that," Admiral Liu replied. "But remember, we're not waiting for your answer. We're already implementing our own solution." As the eldest being prepared to withdraw, it asked one final question. "What makes you believe you can succeed against beings who have existed since the first stars formed?" The answer came from thousands of human voices speaking in perfect unison. "Because our world taught us that the only way to survive is to never stop fighting for what's right, no matter how powerful the enemy." The eldest being disappeared from human space, but its fear traveled with it. The humans were not just winning a war. They were preparing to remake the galaxy according to their own vision of justice. And they had the will and ability to do it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in recorded history. For the first time in millions of years, the ancient beings gathered not to decide the fate of lesser species, but to determine their own survival. The eldest being materialized at the center of the nexus, its form darker and more solid than the other council members had ever seen. Around the vast table, beings of immense power shifted nervously as reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy. "The Zephyrian Collective has fallen," announced Witness, the dust cloud entity, its particles swirling with agitation. "Their entire fleet destroyed, their worlds occupied by human forces. They surrendered unconditionally 6 hours ago. The Vorthan Empire has withdrawn all forces to their core systems," added another council member. "They claim neutrality, but are clearly preparing for human contact. 3 minor civilizations have already requested human protection from potential council intervention," said a geometric being whose angles hurt to perceive directly. "The humans are accepting these requests." The eldest being absorbed these reports with growing resignation. The humans were not simply winning battles. They were systematically dismantling the entire structure of galactic governance that had existed for eons. "How many of our affiliated species have declared independence from council authority?" the eldest being asked. 47 and counting," Witness replied. "They believe the humans will protect them from our oversight. And they are probably correct," the eldest being said grimly. "The humans have made their position clear. No species will be subject to testing, evaluation, or forced evolution under their protection." A crystalline entity that looked like living diamond spoke up. "Surely we can resist this. Our technology exceeds theirs by millions of years. Our understanding of universal forces dwarfs their primitive knowledge. Can we? The eldest being challenged. Can we fight beings who sacrifice their lives without hesitation for causes they believe in? Can we defeat creatures who learn and adapt faster than we can plan? Can we overcome a species that treats every defeat as a lesson and every victory as a stepping stone to greater victories? The diamond being flickered uncertainly. We could withdraw from physical reality entirely, as our predecessors did, exist as pure energy in dimensions they cannot reach, and abandon the galaxy to them? Accept that our time as shapers of cosmic destiny is over? The question hung in the air like a dying star. Around the table, beings who had witnessed the birth of galaxies contemplated the end of their age of dominance. There is another option, the eldest being said finally. We could adapt. The word sent shock waves through the assembled entities. Adaptation was what they forced other species to do. The ancient beings were supposed to be beyond such necessities. Explain, demanded Witness. The humans are not interested in destroying us, the eldest being said. Their Admiral Liu made that clear. They want to end our control over galactic development. But they are not genocidal. They believe in something they call justice. Bean quote. Bean quote. They want 2-3 SIGs. Bean quote. They want 2-3 SIGs. They want to end our control. A primitive concept, scoffed the diamond being. Perhaps, the eldest being agreed. But it is also a powerful one. It gives them strength we have forgotten. The strength that comes from believing you are fighting for something greater than your own survival. On the great display screens around the chamber, images appeared from across human space. Not the scenes of destruction the council members expected, but something far more disturbing to their worldview. Human fleets were arriving at worlds that had never known protection from cosmic disasters. When solar flares threatened a planet, human ships moved to shield the population. When asteroid impacts seemed inevitable, human engineers worked around the clock to divert the threats. When disease outbreaks occurred, human medical ships appeared with aid and supplies. Most shocking of all, the humans were sharing their technology freely with any species that requested it, not forcing evolution or testing worthiness, but simply offering help to anyone who needed it. They are doing our job, Witness observed, with something like wonder. But, without our methods, without our arrogance, corrected the eldest being. They protect because they choose to, not because they believe they know what is best for everyone else. Another report arrived from human space, and this one made the ancient beings pause in amazement. The humans had made contact with a species so primitive they had not even developed agriculture. Instead of testing them or guiding their evolution, the humans had simply established a protective perimeter around their world and left them alone to develop naturally. They are protecting a species that can offer them nothing in return, the geometric being said in disbelief. What kind of strategic thinking is that? It is not strategic, the eldest being replied. It is ethical. They protect the weak because they believe it is the right thing to do, not because they expect anything in return. As if summoned by their discussion, a new presence entered the nexus. The ancient beings turned in alarm as space itself seemed to ripple, and then Admiral Liu Wei materialized before them, not in a ship or through technology, but accompanied by an energy field that spoke of human mastery over forces the Council had thought beyond their reach. Honored Council members, Admiral Liu said, her voice carrying easily through the cosmic structure. How did you reach the Nexus? Witness asked in shock. This structure exists beyond normal space-time. Our scientists have been busy, Admiral Liu replied with a slight smile. When you decide to remake the galaxy, you need to learn how to reach every part of it. The eldest being studied the human admiral with new respect. You have come to deliver our ultimatum? Ultimatum. No, Admiral Liu said, surprising them all. I have come to offer you a choice. She gestured, and holographic displays filled the space around them, showing human fleets withdrawing from conquered territories, Zephyrian prisoners being released and returned to their homes, occupied worlds being restored to their original governments. "You can choose to fight us," Admiral Liu said. "You will lose, eventually, but the cost will be enormous on both sides. Entire civilizations will be destroyed in the conflict. Billions will die." The displays shifted, showing different scenes. Ancient beings working alongside human scientists, council members serving as advisors rather than rulers, a galaxy where wisdom was offered freely rather than imposed by force. "Or you can choose to join us," Admiral Liu continued. "Not as our subjects, not as our rulers, but as our partners. Use your knowledge to help and guide, not to control and test. Accept that even ancient wisdom can learn from new perspectives." The council members looked at each other with uncertainty. They had expected conquest or destruction, not an invitation to cooperation. "And if we refuse both options?" the diamond being asked. "Then you will be left alone?" Admiral Liu said simply. "You can withdraw to your home regions and live as you choose, as long as you do not interfere with the development of other species. The galaxy is large enough for all of us." The eldest being felt something it had not experienced in eons: hope. "You would truly allow us to retain our autonomy? Freedom of choice is one of our fundamental principles," Admiral Liu replied. "We will not force you to change any more than we will allow you to force others to change. But we hope you will choose to help us build something better than what existed before." The ancient being considered the offer, looking around at its fellow council members. They had ruled through power and fear for so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to be invited to participate as equals. "What would you have us do?" the eldest being asked. "What you should have been doing all along," Admiral Liu said. "Share your knowledge freely. Offer guidance when asked. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Help build a galaxy where every species has the chance to reach its full potential." Around the chamber, displays showed the future humanity envisioned. Worlds where different species work together by choice rather than coercion, where ancient wisdom guided young enthusiasm, where conflicts were resolved through discussion rather than testing. It was not the galaxy the Council had built, but it might be a better one. "The humans have shown us something we had forgotten," the eldest being said to its fellow council members. "They have shown us what it means to be truly civilized." One by one, the ancient beings began to signal their agreement. Not surrender, but acceptance of a new role in a galaxy that would be shaped by cooperation rather than domination. As Admiral Liu prepared to leave the Nexus, the eldest being made one final observation. "Your species truly is remarkable. Earth produced something unprecedented in cosmic history." Admiral Liu smiled. "Yes, it did. It produced a species that refuses to accept that might makes right, that believes everyone deserves a chance to grow and thrive, that fights for justice not just for themselves, but for everyone." As the human admiral disappeared, leaving the ancient beings to contemplate their new reality, the eldest being looked out at the galaxy with eyes that saw it differently than ever before. The age of testing was over. The age of partnership had begun. And perhaps, the eldest being thought, this new age would be better than anything that had come before. The humans had not just awakened their fury when threatened, they had awakened something in the galaxy itself. They had awakened hope.